whether you are new to real estate investing, whether you've been investing other places and you want to understand the returns in Baltimore, whether you're curious how much I as a real estate investor make on each one of my properties, this is the video for you. This is one of my favorite series. I call it Investing by the Numbers. And if this is the first time to our channel, my name's Dave Hathaway. On this channel, we discuss real estate, we discuss investing, and we discuss building wealth. So why we purchased what we purchase, how we purchase it. We're going to use a real life example. So we're going to show before and after videos and pictures of one of our latest rental properties. We're going to go over the rehab. We're going to go over our initial analysis, how much we thought we were going to make. Then we're going to go at the end of the video, we're going to go over how much we actually make. So you'll see exactly how much money we make on this rental property. We're going to discuss the strategies that we use for this properties and others that are similar to this. And then at the very end, we're going to show you the professional walkthrough. So after you've gone through the entire place looking like junk, you're going to get to see that at the very end, the entire walkthrough of the entire property, so you can see what our rehabs look like. So if that sounds like a good video for you, let's get into it. The property that we're going to look at today is 1315 West Lafayette Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21217. So how we found this property? Well, we found it at auction. It was being auctioned by a local auction company called Ashland Auction. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with the local auctions, they usually give you a super low price. So in this case, it was, I want to say it was $25,000 initial bid. And we eventually won the bid for, I believe it was $67,000. But with the auction fees, it depends on per property what the auction fee is. You have to look in the description of the auction. We ended up being able to purchase this one for $75,000 after we won the auction. Now, initially, what we liked about this property is I have some properties in this same area in Baltimore. You do have to be super careful on what street you're investing in, because this is Harlem Park and certain areas are really dicey. They sell drugs, but this block in particular, I knew pretty well. It was a couple blocks away from some other small multifamilies that I owned, and it was 3 stories up. And one thing that I noticed right off the bat, and I'm going to show you the listing, they mislisted this property. And this is one thing that you need to look out for that gives you a leg up on everybody else. So they had listed this property as a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And when I was looking at the pictures initially, it looked like there was more bathrooms. And I remember going back and I remember counting, and I've done this a lot, so this is kind of a tip, counting how many bedrooms there are. Sometimes it's hard because they do different angles of bedrooms, but counting how many bedrooms there were and how many bathrooms there were. And I remember thinking there is more bathrooms than 2 in this property, just looking at the pictures. Either they had some wrong pictures in there, which auction houses can do, or there was more bathrooms than this listing was leading on to show. So with that, I love the size of the property. I like these really big properties because it gives a little bit more opportunity of what we can do with the property, as far as we could rent it out for assisted living. We could rent it out by the room. And it was just, since it's 4 bedrooms, that's a lot of bedrooms. That's on the high end. When you get to 4, 5, and 6 bedrooms, you're going to be able to command a higher rent than most people. Other thing that I really loved about this property is in this area, and it won't always be this case, but since this is a little bit rougher area, taxes are super, super low. So taxes on this one are $448 a year. Again, this won't be like this forever, but I noticed that, and this has all been a strategy of mine, is I use this as like a tax arbitrage. If things are really low on taxes because Baltimore wants the area to be revitalized, then I get crazy cash flow on the front end of the property for the first 4, 5, 7 years before they bump those taxes up. So looking at the initial analysis of the property, and I'm going to go through the numbers, and once you're walking through the property, you can see that, it's kind of nasty, but overall the bones of this property were great. It had been renovated. I don't have it in front of me. I want to say 2008 or something. So 14 years prior, and it had been an entire renovation. So everything was new, from the joists to the plumbing to the HVAC. It was all new in there. So I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of issues with this property as far as maintenance going forward. And when I look at the cash flow analyzer, my initial estimates were purchase price for $75,000, that the rehab was going to be about $30,000. So my all-in with like closing costs was going to be about $107,000. And if I was able to rent the property out for $2,100 and my monthly expenses were $485.33, my rent minus my monthly expenses for a cash-on-cash return, I'd make, if I paid all cash, did the rehab with all cash, I'd make $1,614.87 or 18%. And this is a really large return. A lot of times this is a red flag that shows the area is a little bit rough. And so you want to dig into that a little bit more. This is where it gets even sweeter. If I did a 30-year fixed loan at 8%, it would cash flow about $1,018 or 45% return. So that is humongous. And it shows once you have a little bit of cash flow, if you use leverage on top of that, you can just quadruple your returns. So I was super excited about this, that I got it. And going through the property, what we did on the rehab. So moving forward to the rehab, after we purchased this property, this was a medium rehab. It by no means was a full gut, but it's a big property. It's 2,800 square feet. At $17 a square foot, the rehab should be about $47,000. But I knew that the crew that I work with could do this for less. It didn't need a lot of drywall work. The drywall, the bones of the property were pretty good. So going in, we did all new kitchen cabinets. We did granite countertops in the kitchen. We did all new stainless steel appliances. We had to replace a bunch of the windows because their locks were messed up, and that was going to hurt us and make us fail any home inspections, whether it was just the regular Baltimore inspection or the Section 8 inspection. So we replaced a bunch of the windows. We had to do floors throughout the entire property because they were down to plywood. We did a new heat pump. We had to replace a ton of doors. You could tell that whatever handyman they had was just not that great. So anything that they touched after the fact that they did their permits was just like doors upside down, doors busted, hinges kind of messed up. And so replaced a lot of doors and closets. Often my secret is if I'm replacing a closet door, I don't do bifolds. I switch to French doors because bifolds and rentals always lead to more maintenance calls. We did have to do a bit of drywall work in this one. And then on the exterior, we did cap the cornice at the top. And by capping the cornice at the top, it allowed us to go lead-free. In Baltimore, being lead-free is a huge advantage. It just takes your liability down a lot. You don't have to worry about somebody suing you for lead-based paint. So I realized once they did that renovation, the only thing they left that tested positive for lead was that cornice up on the top. And you can have somebody come in and do a test right before your rehab so you know what you have to change. We use a company called Lead Probe. They're awesome, so I'll plug Lead Probe right here. But that's basically what we did on the rehab. What we were able to keep, we were able to keep the roofs. We were able to keep most of the bathrooms, even though they were distasteful, and I didn't love them as far as a design aspect. They were rock solid. They were tile floors, tile surrounds. The vanities, most of them were in good shape. So I think we replaced one or two, but we were able to basically keep the bathrooms for the most part, do some plumbing work in the walls that was messed up, but we were able to keep the bathrooms and the floors. The two things that we ran into hiccups here, we ran into two major hiccups. One, the first was the power. We had to reconnect the power because they had a vacant notice on the property and the local utility company, BGE, had disconnected the power from the building. If you haven't dealt with this and you're a new investor, this is a pain. This is a slog. I kind of have thick skin, so I know it's going to take a month and a half up to 2 months to get the power reinstated. Sometimes you can do renovations. You can have your crews put a generator in the building so you have power, or else it's just really tough to do a lot of stuff because they use a lot of power. And without power, it's just kind of a pain in the butt. I actually let this one sit for a month and a half prior to us. I think I painted it out and then I just didn't do anything else. I didn't deliver any of the materials to the job site. We just stopped until we had power. And the reason being is I don't like to start doing a bunch of stuff and then we kind of have to stop to get finished because I don't want that property to get broken into and then stuff getting stolen out. So I get to a point where, hey, we can do what we can do. We can make sure the plumbing's in order. We can paint all the walls and then we'll just stop and we'll do the rest when we're done. So it doesn't look like a place that's great to stay for anybody or that has anything great to steal out of it. That's just what I do in Baltimore City. Take it or leave it. But we finally got the power up and then the guys went turbo mode and they finished it up relatively quickly. Other thing that was a huge hiccup was termites. I have never had termites before in a property, and this one was revealed that my painter was painting and there was like brown dirt, looked like a dirt line at the top of the corner of the kitchen, and he scraped it off. He painted, and he came back the next day or after the weekend, and the dirt was back. And he scraped it again, and then when he came back the third time, he goes, "Hey Dave, I think you got some sort of issue. I keep scraping this mud, and it keeps coming back." And I said, I probably have termites, and that's something I missed early on. I looked down in the basement. I did see some tubes and just go, oh man, these are probably old termite tubes. Shame on me. It wasn't. Luckily, I was able to call a company out there, and I want to say it was between $800 and $1,000, and they put little feeding packs right where the tubes are, the termite tubes, and you'll see the tubes get built right to the feeding packs, which are in essence poison, and we'll show some pictures. And those termites eat all that stuff up instead of eating your wood. That kept me up at night because I was like, oh, termites are like eating my entire property right now. Gosh. So they eat the poison, they bring it back to the colony, they kill the queen, they kill everybody else, and render the termite population extinct. So I had to do that. That was the other big hiccup other than the power. But we even did that even when we were doing lease up because it's a multi-month process to get termites extinct because the pest company comes back and they continue to check their bait stations to see if they've been fed on, and they'll keep replacing them until there's no termite activity. So that was the second hiccup. Now, before we go into the final numbers, if you guys find value in any of things on this channel, love it and appreciate you guys if you just give the video a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. So let's get into the final numbers after we had done the renovation. We'll show some walkthroughs of it almost done. The final numbers, again, purchase price stayed the same at $75,000. The rehab came out to $31,262.28. It's so exact because I just pull it straight off our QuickBooks. And so our all-in number was right about $109,000. So if we were to get a mortgage on this property at 8%, we'd end up having about a $900 cash flow with those numbers. Great. If you can get $900 cash flow and you're comfortable with the street isn't a war zone, you're going to be killing it. So let me just go over the numbers real quick. And these are the real life numbers. So the mortgage payment would be somewhere around $711.15. And that's with a 20% down payment. So your mortgage would be on $82,000. And my total expenses, and I'll give them to you straight out, with an 8% management fee at $157.52, estimating a 10% vacancy at $196.90, taxes, super cheap, like I said, $37 a month, insurance, $70 a month. Total expenses per month come out to $461.75. we were able to secure a Section 8 tenant on this property for $1,969. So $1,961 our rent minus our expenses, $461.75 gives us a total of $1,507.25 of cash flow per month, or 16.5% return, or $18,000 per year. So this one was absolutely just killing it. We did miss our mark of, I was thinking that I'd get $2,100 per month just because the 4-bedroom, 4-bath, that is a big property. We got $1,969. I was still very happy with that number. And we're still making good money on the property, so no big deal. Now, the principal pay down on a mortgage would be somewhere around $60 a month. Not really a big deal. And we self-manage it, so we could technically take the $157 a month, the 8% management fee out, and we'd be making about $1,000 a month cash flow, or 12% per year, if even with a mortgage. So those numbers are incredible, and I'm super happy with them. The property's doing great. Even for this, if I were to sell the property today, I mean, I could probably sell the property for $165, probably a little bit more because of our Section 8 tenant. It's very wanted. So our equity spread is about $56,000. So I'm getting $1,000 a month at the very least if I have a loan on the property, and I'm getting $56,000 in equity that whenever I sell the property, I get that too. So both huge, huge numbers. Now, I don't think this property is going to appreciate into the sky because it is in Harlem Park. It's going to take a while to revitalize that area. So I wouldn't be surprised in 5 years if I could only sell it for 165, 175, maybe 190. Would not be surprised at all. But for this property, it is a cash flow property. The other thing that I love about this property that most people won't talk about is rebuild costs. And when you think about new properties going up, and this is probably one of the reasons why Baltimore just doesn't have a bunch of new townhouses going up, you can't build a new townhouse and make a profit for 165, 175. It's just not possible. So it's going to be hard for supply to go way up for a bunch of people to bring on a bunch of townhouses. So I don't have to worry about getting hit by supply in that area. And I really like the location on the proximity to downtown. So I'm happy with cash flow every month and just very little appreciation, but that already locked up equity. I'm happy with that. Now, longer term, I'll probably hold on to this property for 5 to 7 years, and then I'll sell it once the area is starting to get revitalized and the taxes start to go up and my rent has capped out. I'm okay with the BRRRR strategy on this one. The buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And that's what we did on this. If you want to watch our BRRRR strategy video that isn't property specific, you can watch this video right up here that goes over what the BRRRR strategy is. But it's in essence this exact strategy of buying a distressed property, fixing it up, renting it out, refinancing, and then repeating that model and just recycling your money. So that's what we did here. Now I'm curious, what would you guys have done? Would you have sold the property and cashed in on that $56,000 of equity? Would you keep the property long term because you're making $1,500 a month if you purchased it in all cash? What would you do? Or would you do the exact same thing? Would you refinance, then find another property and repeat it and keep that $1,000 a month cash flow? You know, do you think my strategy is good here, or do you think it's terrible? Last thing I want to announce, if you haven't already done so, we have a private Facebook group. If you're interested in learning how to invest in real estate, you have questions, we have answers, join our private Facebook community. You can find it down in the description. Just click on it. I think all you have to do is fill out like 3 questions and then we accept you into the group. And with that, I'll see you on the next Investing by the Numbers video. See you guys.